Thank you. And let me just applaud my colleague from West Virginia, Senator Capito, for her work to address the opioid epidemic. It's something that I know in a bipartisan way we care about in this chamber, and it's one place where I think we could come to some agreement around increasing resources as we come to an agreement on budget for the upcoming year. So thank you for your comments. Mr. President, I came to the floor this morning because I believe the United States is a nation of laws. The bedrock of our democracy is the rule of law. We are blessed with a judicial system and federal law enforcement agencies that are respected worldwide for their integrity, impartiality, and professional excellence. And as the lead Democrat on the Appropriations Subcommittee on Commerce, Justice, and Science and related agencies, I have a responsibility, along with my chairman, Senator Shelby, and our colleagues, to ensure that the Department of Justice, including federal law enforcement agencies and federal prosecutors, have the resources they need to do their jobs. I also have a responsibility to ensure that they are independent and shielded from political interference. And on that score, I'm deeply troubled by a rising chorus of partisan attacks on the integrity of the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and in particular, Special Counsel Robert Mueller, who is investigating Russian interference in the 2016 elections. And this actually is the cover of the report from our intelligence agencies on that interference in the 2016 elections. I believe these attacks are part of a broader campaign, these attacks against Special Counselor Mueller. They're part of a broader campaign orchestrated by the White House to undermine the investigations into Russia's interference in the 2016 campaign, including possible collusion by the Trump campaign. This effort to discredit the investigation has profound national security implications for the United States. Yesterday, Senator Ben Cardin, the top Democrat on the Foreign Relations Committee, released a report on behalf of the minority of the Foreign Relations Committee that documents Russian President Vladimir Putin's two-decade assault on democratic institutions, Western values, and the rule of law. This report complements a finding by the U.S. intelligence community issued last January that Russia interfered in the 2016 election and will continue to interfere in our elections if not deterred. This was the unanimous conclusion of all 17 U.S. intelligence agencies. And yet, President Trump continues to be dismissive of claims that Russia interfered. And this is not about partisanship. This is not about who won the election. This is about whether Russia is trying to disrupt our democracy. President Trump's comments about what happened here is an extraordinary abdication of the president's duty to defend our country and safeguard our democracy. As our Foreign Relations Committee report concludes, and I quote, "Never before in American history has so clear a threat to national security been so clearly ignored by a U.S. president, and without a strong U.S. response, institutions and elections here and throughout Europe will remain vulnerable to the Kremlin's aggressive and sophisticated malign influence operations," end quote. Now, meanwhile, the campaign by the White House and certain Republicans in Congress to discredit and deflect the investigation continues. Indeed, it's a campaign that's become even more bizarre. Republicans on the Judiciary Committee refused to release testimony by the co-founder of Fusion GPS, testimony regarding Russian efforts to collude with the Trump campaign. So last week, Senator Grassley and Senator Graham took the unprecedented step of calling on the Justice Department to investigate former British MI6 intelligence officer Christopher Steele, author of the Fusion GPS report. So think about that. Instead of calling for an investigation of the serious charges in the so-called Russian dossier, these senators demand an investigation of the author of the report. Meanwhile, the president is becoming increasingly aggressive in attacking the investigations. He again called them a witch hunt and demanded, and I quote, "Republicans should finally take control." Well, the partisan attacks on Special Counselor Robert Mueller, are especially shameful. He is a decorated Marine, Vietnam veteran. He's a Republican who was nominated as FBI director by President George W. Bush. He was approved by the Senate at that time, 98-0. In 2011, when his 10-year term was up, President Obama, a Democratic president, asked the Senate to extend his term for an additional 2 years, and that request was granted by unanimous consent. And Director Mueller was confirmed for another 2-year term by a unanimous vote of 100-0. And when Mr. Mueller was appointed special counsel in May, he was greeted with bipartisan praise for his integrity and professionalism. And here are some of the quotes that we heard at the time. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said, "I have a lot of confidence in Bob Mueller. I think it was a good choice." Senator Rubio said, "I believe he's going to conduct a full and fair and thorough investigation that we should have confidence in." Senator Isaacson said, "Mueller's been appointed for a purpose. Let him carry that purpose out and let the evidence take us where it may." Yet today, in the wake of indictments of key Trump campaign officials, some Republicans in Congress are joining with voices in the conservative media in smearing Robert Mueller as corrupt and dishonest. Those are quotes. In early December, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich said, and I quote, "Mueller is corrupt. The senior FBI is corrupt. The system is corrupt." The day after Christmas, a prominent House Republican called for top officials in the Department of Justice and FBI to be purged. It is unfortunate that many Republicans appear to believe that in order to support the president, they must attack and discredit not only Special Counsel Mueller, but also the career employees of the Department of Justice and the FBI. These partisan attacks are baseless and reckless. They are undermining trust and confidence in the rule of law. And this must not be tolerated. It's time for responsible senators on both sides of the aisle to speak up in defense of these institutions that are at the heart of our democracy. It's time to come together on a bipartisan basis to demand that Mr. Mueller be allowed to follow the facts wherever they may lead. The FBI is also under attack. President Trump has said that the agency's reputation is in tatters and its standing is the worst in history. The truth is that the FBI continues to be the gold standard for law enforcement agencies worldwide. The prosecutors in the Department of Justice are superb professionals who adhere to a strict ethic of honesty and impartiality, as do the nearly 37,000 employees of the FBI. They put their lives on the line every day to protect the American people from violent criminals, from terrorists, and from foreign agents who mean our country great harm. Just last month, as the agency was being attacked on Fox News as equivalent to the Soviet-era KGB, undercover FBI agents were hard at work stopping an ISIS supporter who was planning a Christmas Day terrorist attack on Pier 39, the iconic San Francisco tourist attraction. This is just one example of more than 720 potential acts of terrorism that were disrupted and prevented by hardworking FBI agents last year, and we see the headlines from some of those plots that were thwarted in New York, in San Francisco, in Florida, and in Oklahoma City. On June 13th, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein testified before our Appropriations Subcommittee. Because the Attorney General has recused himself, Mr. Rosenstein is the top DOJ official overseeing the special counsel. At the hearing, I asked him if he had any evidence of good cause for firing Special Counsel Mueller. He answered, "No, I have not." In response to my further questioning, Mr. Rosenstein responded, "You have my assurance that we're going to faithfully follow that regulation, and Director Mueller is going to have the full independence that he needs to conduct that investigation appropriately." And more recently, on December 13th, testifying before the House Judiciary Committee, Mr. Rosenstein was again asked if there's good cause for firing Special Counsel Mueller. He responded with a firm no. Members of Congress and commentators in the media who are now attacking the special counsel, the Justice Department, and the FBI for partisan political purposes are making a grave mistake. They won't succeed in deflecting law enforcement from its duties and missions, but they may well succeed in undermining the American people's faith and confidence in these institutions so vital to a healthy democracy. That is not only unfortunate, it is shameful. This is a remarkable moment in our nation's history. A hostile foreign power has interfered in our presidential election. Our law enforcement agencies and a special counsel are working diligently to uncover the scope and methods of that intervention so we can prevent a recurrence in the future. Supporting these efforts isn't about party or partisanship. It's about patriotism and defending America's democracy, which has been attacked and continues to be vulnerable to attack. Our democracy is being tested. Our law enforcement agencies are being tested. And we as senators are being tested. Our responsibility is clear. We have a duty to come together, senators of both parties, to defend the independence of the Justice Department and the FBI. And we must insist that Special Counsel Mueller be allowed to conduct and complete his investigation without political interference. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor.